Hey everyone, Ivan here. Came across something today. I thought I might just want to touch on a little bit of cybersecurity for you, something that you can use, something to kind of make you scratch your head and go, how many episodes of security is he doing at one time? um, have you ever seen the pop ups that come up and it says, this site uses cookies? I love cookies. It's my favorite thing that you can tell, right? Yeah, anyway. I absolutely love cookies. I'm not so much a cake or a pie guy, well, unless it's a really good apple pie. But it says this site uses cookies, accept all. Um, my site says I use cookies, and if you go forward, we're just going to take everything from you. You don't have a choice to go backwards. So that's why. Anyway, um, it says accept all, or most say you can click here to read more about it or make adjustments. That is the thing that's coming up now, or maybe reject all. Well, if some sites, if you reject them, you don't get in. But the thing that I came across, and I was kind of wondering how many people just smash that. Yeah, I'll accept all. I want to read the article, and do you really know what those cookies are doing? It's kind of like clicking on that QR code that I talked about a couple of videos ago. Do you really know what's going on? Do you know where you're going to? Do you know what is really occurring when you accept that cookie into your computer or into your tablet? I don't know if it does the same thing on phones. Maybe I should look into that. But right now, this is more about computers than anything and the browsers that we're using, right? For a computer. My lips look awfully shiny, don't they? I put lip balm on because they looked awfully ragged before. Anyway, um, so today I want to pull back the curtain on browser cookies and how exactly they track you across the internet or across the web, who's watching, and why the your entire digital life is for sale. So I want you to do me a favor, stick around for that one. I got to remember the camera's down here, not up there. Do me a favor, stick around for that one. This might be something very interesting. It might make you think about deleting some of your histories, or maybe not, because a lot of those browsers help you just log in without thinking about the user ID and password. And that's not a good thing. And passwords are the worst thing that man ever created. But that's a whole nother video. um, I wanted to give you something you could use, and I saw this, and I looked at my own cookies, and I have a little cookie monster on mine, and I'm trying to see where it is. I don't see one, but most of whatever comes up is usually blocked, and I'll show you that example as well. Um, so if you want to learn more about cookies and how you can protect yourself in that digital footprint that you're leaving behind, and what people are stealing from you by collecting those cookies, and you can have cookies that you don't even have the faintest idea where they're coming from and what data that they're collecting, and that can be really dangerous. So I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about what you can do about it. And if you just so happen to be overseas, you might even have a better reason for it. It's a little thing called GDPR. So, with that, sit back, buckle in, and I'm going to give you some examples and show you what's going on. All right. Boom. So here are some examples of the average. What you would see is either accept or read more about it or make modifications. This is the typical thing, or you can reject all. And usually they don't like it. They always have one cookie that just this is a functional cookie, and you need to have this. No, you don't. But you need to have this to make sure it works well. Look, they are tracking your information. We talked about geofencing when we spoke about TPUSA and what they were doing at Charlie's Memorial. This is another way of tracking you. And if you really don't know too much about it, this might be a really good primer for you. So check this out, right? We've all seen them. Do yourself a favor, figure out where they are within your browser, and you might really want to figure out how you can maybe trim some of that down. So they use cookies. Cookies are used for either advertisement, for marketing, for stealing information. They could be used for a myriad of things. And these are all the different types of cookies that you might see. I love chocolate chip. That's Oreos. I think Oreos are crack. I've never had crack or tried crack, but there's something about cookies. And you know they're everywhere, and they could have all types of malicious data. There are cookies that you can't even see. There's a single pixel cookie. I'm not going to try to pop my peas here. So, you know, the cookies that you're looking at are web cookies, right? And they're a little tiny file, and kind of think of it like a sticky note. It's just kind of on the website, and it kind of slaps it on the browser and said, "Hey, you were here, and I'm going to remember where you went, and I'm going to remember where you lived, and whatever else you typed in here. So I know what you looked at last time. I know, like, if I go to Amazon, quite often I might look at this, or I might look at that, or I'm looking at new earphones, or different things, maybe a new chair, and so it will remember the last thing I looked at. They also remember your passwords for that site, right? But they also have a little darker side, and they can track a lot of information that might already be on your computer from other cookies as well. So think about that. You have a cookie that takes information from other cookies. It says, "Hey, where else did you go lately? What else have you been looking at?" And some of that data might be sensitive data. So, but it's all stored in your browser, right? And so every time you log in to that particular website, right, your browser stores that information, and then when you come back in, it says, "Hey, welcome back. We haven't seen you in a while." Or they'll use your name or whatever. It kind of makes you feel comfortable. It's like, "Oh, this was really easy to get into," right? So almost a comfort factor. It's like, "Oh, it's really easy to get into the site. I didn't have to put in my user ID and password. No big deal, right?" No, wrong. And here's exactly why. I'm going to give you an example right here. Check this out, right? So at the end of the day, yeah, I just said it. At the end of the day, what happens is simply this: that information is stored, and it's not just stored on your computer, but it goes back to a central location. That information can now be sold. That data can now identify who you are. It might even pull down other information from your browser. So, for example, you are the user, and then that information is stored in the browser, and then from the browser, it goes out to someone's server. And maybe other cookies are collected as well from that same browser, and that's also stored in somebody else's server. So, for example, Google has quite a few, and every time you go out and do a Google search, if you look at your cookie history, it will show you how many cookies you've been ingesting. So, there's a little thing called a tiny cookie, and there's a pixel cookie. There's all types of cookies that are out there. It's kind of like what you want. It knows more about you than you might believe. What page you are requesting. The server responds back with a certain level of cookies, and what the session is, and how long you've been on that page, even to the point it could possibly track your cursor, where you moved it, what you might have looked at or didn't quite click on, but it knows you were there, right? And it's like, just click on it, and we'll get it to you tomorrow. It's just like, somebody out on the street. Here you go. The first one's free. After that, come see me. I'll take care of you. No, not so much. These things are there to, yes, make your life easier when it comes to browsing. They're session cookies, but they also are an identifier for you, your computer, and all types of things. Can you imagine if somebody that had that cookie knew exactly what size monitors you have, how large your hard drive is, how much data you have utilized on it, how often you utilize your computer, when you don't utilize it, your downtime? All types of information can be gleaned from cookies, right? So you have a first party cookie, and then you have a third party cookie as well, and those are kind of the dangerous ones, right? Or you could have cross-site cookies as well. So you have a cookie that goes from one location to another. There's just a monster cookie monster around here. Third-party cookies are kind of dangerous because they are an invasion of your privacy, right? Um, at the end of the day, well, let's talk about this. So a first-party cookie, it is set an actual it's by the site that you're on. So, for example, if you go to the New York Times, it's going to remember, where you logged in, or what your login is, what your user password is, if you allow it, and it'll pop up. Hey, do you want me to remember your password? And it might have a little file in there in your browser. to help you remember or just to remember. And then it will log you in automatically. It seems extremely harmless, right? A third party cookie is is set up and is sent by someone else. It's somebody else's code embedded in that page. Now, let's not get this twisted. Google does this on a regular basis on a whole bunch of pages, or even Facebook. It's one of the reasons why I hate Facebook. Zuckerberg. Um, anyway, these are tracking cookies, and they're usually for Google Ads or Facebook pixels. They're for what they say is analytics. They're analytic trackers, but effectively these are nothing more than spies just watching you and watching where your browser goes and some of the sites that you might be looking at. And here's the key: they don't necessarily know the difference between you and somebody else who uses your computer as well, right? So if you have a laptop that might be company issued and then you give it to your kid to do something with, they may not know the difference. Or maybe you have a spouse or a teenager that goes to some nefarious location, or just think about that for a minute, right? Excuse me. No cough button. Sorry, Baron. I'm not that sophisticated anyway. If you go and look at your cookies, and you can look in your browser and you could identify where they are, you might see DoubleClick, right? DoubleClick.net is Google, and Google loves to drop cookies on your machine. On an average, on an average day, you might pick up a good 300, 400 cookies just by that 9 to 5 floating around, clicking on a couple of sites. YouTube drops a whole bunch, and then every single site that you go to, a site or content provider, drops even more cookies because that's part of the analytics, right? So think about this. It reads the policies, and it understands where you are, where you go, what you're looking at. It remembers your shoe size. It remembers what you're looking for. Have you ever been to the point where I'm thinking I'm going to buy a new pair of shoes? Maybe I need to buy some track shoes, gym shoes, whatever you want to call them. And then you kind of look, but you really don't look. And then the next day, you might see it maybe on your phone. Well, those cookies were shared, and they know from one address to another. Well, if your phone is on the same router, that's the same IP address because you're natted inside. And that's a whole nother story about natting and external IP addresses. But effectively, it's the same IP address to the outside world, right? At the end of the day, one average person, like I told you before, can pick up a good, a couple of hundred of these things that are just tracking. And if you don't delete them, they're there just watching. They are there just watching. It's just a cookie. It's a harmless little cookie. But you have to think about, oh, I just heard mosquitoes. You have to think about, what are they really doing and where are they going? And did you know that there is a $1 billion network that identifies information from these cookies about you? Me too. But so, for example, I don't use the same browser for everything that I do. I use one browser maybe for just my banking, and maybe another browser just for YouTube. I'm very particular about my browsers. I don't like to use a standard browser. I use Firefox. But a lot of people use that crap that Microsoft gives you. Don't, don't use that. But you can choose whatever browser you would like, right? They are baked in to a lot of the operating systems. At the end of the day, I just said it one time, I think that's maybe twice. Um, Data brokers can buy this information, just like geo tracking. They buy this information and they can make millions, or if not billions of dollars off of your profile. You create a digital footprint with this data, right? Now, I recently saw this evening, and it's late night for me. It's my hour right now, so it's like 3 in the morning. I saw there's a cartoon that just came out about cookies, and Baron stealing cookies, and Candace is doing an investigation. So I asked if I could use it, but if I can't, I can't. It doesn't matter. It was a great cartoon. Um, but think about, just like with geofencing, and how Andrew said, "Oh, we tracked 277,000 people here." Yeah, you're no, you didn't. In the vicinity, yes, okay, but at the end of the day, I think they can pull down more off of your computer maybe than your phone, because with this, they're actually dropping something onto your device, and it can be malicious if you allow it to be. There are ways to contain it. And guess what? We're going to talk about that on the next episode, because I want to keep you coming back to my little podcast, because I'm trying to get out there and I don't know, get some clicks or some likes or some subscribers. But I wanted to bring this to your attention because I looked at my cookies and I've got like 3,000 of them, but I have a device, not a device, I have a piece of software that blocks a lot of them from getting information back. And I found this very interesting. I found one that TP USA is utilizing, and it was just, and it's like, oh man, they're tracking some stuff off my site, off of my computer. Actually, they're not, but because it doesn't give back. And I will show you that example here, where it won't allow me to enter into certain locations or certain sites because it says, oh, I have an ad blocker. Well, that ad blocker is nothing more than a cookie blocker, because you ain't getting in, brother. It's just not going to happen. Think about that. Now, I'm not huge on adding additional software into browsers. I like to know if things are made, because a lot of times they might be made, thanks in the Ukraine or maybe in Russia, and but they are, and maybe somebody else is collecting information. Do a little bit of exploring, understand what you're doing. This is a, say it with me, a high IQ outfit, and it's not something you're just going to click on willy nilly. Go out there and do some research. Go look at three of the AIs that are out there. I like to talk to Grok. I like to talk to Chat GPT, and come on, Claude, bring up the rear end. Uh, I think it's important to understand that where you go is being monitored. If you go on X, it's a great deal of information that you are dropping on X that you may not even know about, right? Just think about that. It knows the other locations that you have gone to. Facebook knows where you have. It's like Santa Claus. It knows whether or not you've been naughty or nice. That's might be cool for most people that don't do anything nefarious. So be it. I don't like anybody knowing anything about me. It's none of their, I wouldn't use a really colorful adjective here, but I won't. It's none of their business. It really isn't. And at the same time, spread this around. Let your kids know. Let your parents know. Let your grandparents know that they are very helpful to log you in quite often. So you don't have to remember that user and pass. And there's a ways around that with a password logger, but or password manager. But at the same time, those cookies can also take information off of your computer. So I just wanted to hit on that subject really quick before you hit that. I have a saying, careful what you click on. Before you click on that accept all button, read some of the things that it's doing in there, right? I never click accept all. I always go into the exception, read down. I only want the absolute functional. And if I can avoid even that, I'll accept that. I don't like giving up information about my systems, my computers, where I'm coming from, my IP address. It can even give away your location, because your IP, your physical internet protocol uh, address, is linked to a physical location. Anyway, so with that, I dropped a quick, like super fast video here because I'm trying to get my reps in, Baron, coach, and yeah, it's just it's Ivan coming at you. No script here. I had a couple of notes. Tomorrow, or probably tomorrow, I will be discussing, and hopefully I might have a little cartoon in front of it with Baron out there eating a cookie. Uh, anyway, I thought it was really cute. Tomorrow I'll go over part two, and part two is the tracking empire, the real dangers and how to fight back, right? And so you can put software in there to stop cookies. You can tell the cookie monster to knock it off and to sit its ass down. A lot of times people don't do that, or the bad guys don't do that. Google is one of the bad ones. Everybody wants part of you, right? So, TP USA, and their cookie is just called T USA. And I'm sitting there looking at this thing going, really? Really? You okay, I'm gonna be nice. I'll be nice. God bless Erica. Tomorrow we'll go through the tracking empires. We will go through the real dangers and how to fight back, right? Not just going in and deleting them, but taking a look to see truly what's going on. And maybe, I'll even give you some real world examples. I'll show you some of mine. I'll lift up the kimono so you can see the 3,000, like 377. I don't know how many that are in there, but I mean, just look at the numbers. It's just crazy. And what they're collecting is just whatever they want. But if you block it, right, and you know who is behind. If you're not looking at my other podcast, the one about the surveillance state, you won't know who the number one broker is. Yes, Mr. Ellison is right there with Oracle, collecting all that information. So like, subscribe. If you don't like, you don't like. But this is some information that you can use tomorrow. I'll go into how you can defeat it, how you can smack it out of their mouths, and it's important because we don't want to give away information. We just don't. And there's ways to clean it. You need to think about how you're doing, what you're doing. Use multiple browsers. But we'll go into all of that tomorrow. I promise you. Have a great evening or a great morning, as it may be. And careful what you click on. We'll see you then. Bye now. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it. Look at that one shot deal and it's done. Maybe. I don't think so, but we'll see.